Peace and love, family. Welcome to another powerful discussion with your sister, Dr. Before I get tonight's discussion started, family, I want to welcome you to the Conscious Ingenuity Institute website, family. Okay. This is where you can come and explore all of our youth empowerment programs. All right. All you have to do is visit consciousingenuity.org. And let me drop that in the chat for you. Let me drop that in the chat, consciousingenuity.org. You should see it on the chat. You should also see it on my screen. I'm getting ready to put it on the screen as well. A lot of times we complain about the problems in our community, but we don't mention the solutions. And there are solutions out there. Okay. And then sometimes we complain and then we don't support the solutions that are out there. Hello. And so, anyway, family, make sure that you come on over here to consciousingenuity.com where you can access the youth empowerment programs of the Conscious Ingenuity Institute. Our first program is called Conscious Ingenuity. This is a program that utilizes STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics to build character, confidence, and capabilities. All you have to do, family, is come on over here to consciousingenuity.org to press this yellow button to explore the program. And let me let you in on something, family. This is the first time I've been telling anybody about this. I think I had told you all about this if you've been connected with me for some time, but we're in the process of developing a conscious ingenuity curriculum. Okay, so you'll have, over 136 lessons or lesson plans, lesson slides, and hands-on videos. That's coming up, family. It will be available probably this fall. Okay, we're not playing games, family. We're not playing games. So if you're truly, truly serious about getting your child in STEM, specifically science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, make sure that you keep up with what's happening with conscious ingenuity. Also, we offer the virtual UACI STEM camp in partnership with the Uhuru Academy. Shout out to Baba Amin and Mama and Koyo. The UACI STEM camp is a virtual STEM experience during the summer where children are exposed to cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, African contributions to STEM. All right. And they meet with us virtually for 2 weeks. And look, we send out laptops, we send out STEM kits. So we give your child everything he or she needs to participate in this camp. And guess what, family? It's free. It's free. This cohort starts on June the 30th. Okay. And we've already filled our slots. We have 50 students. And so we've grown. Baba Amin and I literally went from like having 7 or 8 kids, and most of the children were children in our family, to now having 50 children, 50 students from New York to California. Some students are joining hybrid in California. Some are now joining in South Carolina and in North Carolina, and it's going to be a hybrid situation. So that means there'll be a group of students in a classroom participating in the camp, right? So that's what we mean by hybrid. So we're offering a hybrid version of the camp as well for those 2 weeks. Also, family, in partnership with PLM, shout out to Baba Emotep Fatiul and Mama Ife Fatiul. In partnership with PLM, I've founded the Asafo training camp and a Goji training camp. And we founded that together. Okay. The Asafo training camp is an all boys training camp for manhood development in young boys between the ages of 12 and 14. The Agoji training camp, it focuses on womanhood development in young girls between the ages of 12 and 14. And so, family, look, we focus on critical thinking, problem solving skills, it's cultural enriching, life skills, and more. And these are in-person camps. And both of these camps start the first Monday, actually the first Sunday. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm butchering it tonight. It's going to start, I believe, July the 27th. Let me look at my little July the 27th. Hold on, because that's orientation. Yes, Sunday, July the 27th, and graduation is Saturday, August the 2nd. All right, family. And so this is an in-person camp right here in Baltimore. All of these camps are free, family. And hold on, I want to say one more thing. These camps are almost full. Okay, the Asafo training camp, we're half full with that, half full with the Agoji training camp. We're taking 20 boys and 20 girls. Okay, free camp. If you don't live in Baltimore, I would advise you to come down, get an Airbnb and pull up and register as soon as possible. Registration will be closing in the next 2 weeks, okay? And so I'm telling you, these slots are going fast. So please, 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 family, make sure that you get your child enrolled in these youth empowerment camps. All you had to do is head on over to consciousingenuity.org, and you see it on the screen. So what up to my Ma'adi and family? I see you all in the building. Be one for life. Peace and love to you, warrior. I see you. And the great Dennis Assar Winkle is in the building. He said, blessings, powerful guest. Absolutely, man. Every time Dr. Darity responds to me, I'm honored. when he emails me back, I get excited. Oh, Dr. Darity. Then he slid me his telephone number. So, Dr. Ma'at thought I was cool when I had Dr. Darity's cell phone number. Absolutely. He's a powerful guest filled with a lot of knowledge, and anybody that has been connected with me over the years, that I hold Dr. Darity in very high regard. I often promote his book. And even when I spoke at the Reparations rally in DC twice, I mentioned him both times, okay? And encourage everyone to get his work and support his work. I see Baba Gregory's in the building. A BB Fahodie to you. He said, a BB Fahodie, Dr. Ma'at, Ahuru Sasa. I see Mika One is in the building. She said, peace, Dr. Ma'at. Peace to you, Queen. Where you been? I haven't seen you in a minute, Mika. Where you been? Queen Mother Cynthia Rose is in the building. She says, greetings, Dr. Ma'at, family and Africans. Peace to everyone. Peace, Queen Mother. I see Sister Betty Jenkins is in the building. She said, hotep to the fam. Hotep to you, Sister Betty Jenkins. Also see Miss Tiffany, one of our moderators, is in the building. She says, Ashe, peace and love to you. And then I also see my IG family in the building. There go my guy, Lawrence. Lawrence Quince is in the building, man. Peace and love to you. Man, my IG family, make sure you go to YouTube. Come on over here to YouTube because I want to show you comments on the screen. So go head on over to YouTube. Just type in Truth to Power Talk with Dr. Ma'at. Join the stream, okay? But I do appreciate you watching on IG. So family, without further ado, one more comment. AM, I see you. AM said, hello. Happy Black Music Month. Peace and love to you, AM. Thank you so much for that knowledge. All right, family. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on one of our mighty, mighty intellectual warriors, a giant who is among us, and a giant that I am honored to have access to. A lot of times we have access to people and we don't really value the access that we have. It's a privilege to be able to reach out to somebody and they hit you back. That's a privilege. It's a blessing, and it's something that I value. And so anyway, family, I reached out to Dr. Darity to talk about this reparations. He's the man when it comes to reparation. He's the man, and it is a lot of stuff that's been happening concerning reparations, and I didn't feel comfortable speaking on it with anybody else other than Dr. Darity. So after the intro, you will see and hear from Dr. Darity. Peace and Black African excellence.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.
A BB Fahodie, a BB Toomey, a BB Wan. Peace to all of my thinkers, truth speakers, and truth seekers. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Ma'at. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight I have with me another powerful guest, but he is no stranger to the community, to the world. Dr. Darity, how are you doing on this good Sunday?
I'm doing okay, and I'm really, really appreciative of the generous comments you made at the outset. So thank you. Thank you very much.
No problem, Dr. Darity. Thank you for taking time, out of your schedule to be with me and my listeners tonight. Family, right now, take a moment out to thumb up this video. Thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also share this video. I'm getting ready to go on Facebook right now, Dr. Darity, and let them know that I'm live. Okay. And family, I want you to do the same thing. Go on Facebook or IG or X and let the family know. Let the family know that Dr. Ma'at is live. And also, family, copy the link. A lot of us belong to group chats with our we belong to group chats with our friends. And well, it says only me. I'm trying to edit this out right now. So yeah, a lot of us we belong to these group chats. And so, family, make sure that you take the link, copy the link, throw it in the group chat. I'm trying to do that right now and edit the daggone post. but for some reason, it won't let me change it to public. It won't let me change it from only me to public. So that's kind of weird. All right. Well, family, get the word out for me. Get the word out for me, because for some reason I can't share it on my own Facebook because it's telling me that I can't make it public for some reason. So I'm gonna keep on rocking and rolling. So help me spread the word. Help me spread the word. I'm gonna try it one more time, Dr. Darity. Yep. Yeah, it's not allowing me to do it for some reason. But anyway, family. Also, family, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified, family. And then also make sure that you head on over to my platform, Truth to Power Talk with Dr. Ma'at, and go back and listen to some of the conversations in the archive. So I have a Truth to Power Talk playlist on my YouTube channel. Literally last week, I just had Dr. Dennis Assar on, and he shook up the platform last week, talking about emotional fragility, emotional intelligence. We talked about racial battle fatigue. All kinds of stuff. And so it was a dynamic discussion. So family, make sure that you go and watch that. I've also brought on, other guests, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Darity has been on, Dr. Malefe Asante, Dr. Julian. A lot of people have been on, family. So make sure that you go back in and you check out those discussions in the archives. So anyway, Dr. Darity, I reached out to you and I emailed you and about the Tulsa mayor's reparation plan. And so he made headlines literally like a week or two ago. It was all over social media. Tulsa mayor proposes a $105 million reparations plan, and so it just went through social media. And so I said, okay, let me just pull up an article, about this reparations plan that he was talking about. And so I did hear, and I'm reading, family, from an article on my phone. It says right here, Mayor Monroe Nichols, the city's first Black mayor, said that he's going to establish a Greenwood Trust, okay, that's going to consist of 3 components. It says these will include a $24 million fund aimed at securing housing and home ownership for the descendants of the Tulsa massacre. That's what it was. And so anyway, he says that it's going to be for the descendants, it's going to be a $24 million fund aimed at securing housing and home ownership for the descendants, a $60 million fund for cultural preservation that will include building improvements and implementation of aspects of the Kilpatrick Heights Greenwood master plan. I'm not familiar with that master plan. It says in a $21 million legacy fund, which will contribute to, and in quotes, the development of trust-owned land and acquisition of land for the benefit of race massacre survivors and their descendants. And so I ask you, Dr. Darity, would you consider this, a good reparations plan, or even a reparations plan? I didn't hear anything about cash payments. I didn't hear, so what are your thoughts about what the mayor is proposing?
Well, I will say it's refreshing that the mayor actually has made a commitment to something that he is calling reparations. There are very few mayors around the country who even are willing to invoke the term. The difficulty we face, though, in any instance where somebody is introducing a plan that they label as reparations, is we need to know what the objective is. What purpose is the program supposed to achieve? And how will we know, what metrics are we going to use to assess whether or not it's achieved its objectives? And in instances like this, I don't think that there's any clear specification of what the goals are.
No.
So what is this $105 million supposed to do? It's not clear to me. And I've tried to give some thought to ways in which we might think about what any program of reparations in Tulsa ought to do, and then compare the sum of money, $105 million, against that. And as you point out, and this is very, very important, there are no cash payments involved to individuals. that I can see here.
No.
Maybe that's the case for some of the land acquisition process, but there's no cash distribution that people where people would have full discretion over use of the funds.
Mhm.
So that's an important dimension of this. But let's think about some sort of global or national standard for what a reparations plan should do.
Mhm.
And in the work that Kirsten Mullen and I have done, we've emphasized this idea that at minimum, any reparations plan should eliminate the racial wealth gap in the United States. So could Tulsa eliminate the racial wealth gap for Black Tulsa residents with this type of a plan of action? Well, I think the answer is no.
Mm-mm.
The Tulsa
Emphatically.
Black population is probably about 59,000 people. Let's say conservatively, 50,000 of those people would be eligible for some type of reparations plan. The racial wealth gap per person in the United States, the most recent estimates indicate that that's about $400,000 per person. So if you were going to eliminate the racial wealth gap for Black Tulsans with that conservative estimate of 50,000 persons being eligible, it would require $20 billion. And the city's budget is $1.12 billion. And the total sum that's being provided by this project is $105 million. Okay. So that's if we use some sort of national standard for assessing what a reparations plan ought to do. But if we were to focus on Tulsa specifically, then I would think we would want to design a plan of restitution that would address the harms that were associated with the long-term effects of the massacre itself. And I think that there are at least two components that we'd want to consider. The first of these is the loss of property that was associated with the massacre. And the second is the loss of lives that were associated with the massacre. So one of the interesting things about the Tulsa case is that a significant number of the people who were victims of property loss actually filed insurance claims which were denied on grounds that the massacre was an act of God. Well, no, I'm serious. That's what the insurance. That's how the insurance companies responded, and so those claims were never met. But we do have a numerical estimate of the set of claims that were actually put forward, and that's about $1.8 million in 1921.
Mm-hmm.
So we can raise the question as to how much that would be today.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's dependent on what interest rate we use to make what we call a present value calculation. Mm-hmm. So if we use 4%, it's going to amount to the equivalent of $102 million today. If we use 5%, it would amount to $274 million. And if we use 6%, $727 million. So even the lowest estimate at a 4% interest rate is about the same amount as the total that's being offered under this project. And then if we think about loss of lives, we run into a really big problem because there has been no accurate count of the number of Black people who were killed during the course of the massacre. And I've seen estimates that range between 50 to 300. I suspect it's more than 300.
Absolutely, Dr. Darity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But let's use those numbers. We now use customarily an estimate of the statistical value of a human life as approximately $10 million per person. So if we were to multiply that by 50 persons, we come up with $500 million as what is due. And if we were to multiply it by 300 persons, we come up with $3 billion of what is due. So regardless of whether or not I use a national standard or I use a standard that's focused on what specifically occurred in Tulsa,
right,
this $105 million falls far, far short of what is due.
What is due. And Dr. Darity, a lot of people, they don't have access to you, Dr. Darity, in your book. And that's why I keep telling them to get your book, because they thinking you said 105 million. People are going, oh, but when you contextualize this, what you just did so eloquently, you're like, no, it's really not that much money,
Well,
when you really,
when we see a number like 100 million, the
yes.
optics look like it's something really dramatic. But we have to make the comparison against a wise and reasonable standard of what is actually due. And when we do that, we don't have any reason to be extremely enthusiastic about the number 105 million.
No, exactly. And to be honest with you, Dr. Darity, my antennas went up when I read that he submitted the proposal and they're going to implement this plan, and it was without this councilman approval. Like he didn't have to go through anybody. I said, oh.
Well, my understanding is that they essentially have set up a private charitable foundation, and they're going to use private donations.
That's why they didn't have. So it's not the government.
They're not going to use the city's finances, and so, well, I suspect he's got the donors in place.
Right,
I'm certain that there are people who feel that this is a stain on Tulsa's history, and they need to erase that stain. But the question ultimately becomes, will the community that's been subjected to the long-term horrors of the massacre agree that a sufficient amount is being delivered?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely, Dr. Darity. And let me ask you this, Doc. I mean, should we be seeking reparations from mayors, and city councilmen? Is this, or should we be, should it come from the federal level?
So it was nice of you to ask that. I think
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to add. Yeah. I know. I'm just trying to look, Doc. People that haven't seen you before. I just want to
my prior is that we actually need to have federal level reparations. That the states and localities don't have the capacity to come close to meeting what I described as the national goal. If you're talking about an expense of $400,000 per eligible recipient, and there might be about 40 million folks in the United States who should be receiving Black reparations, then we're talking about an expenditure of $16 trillion. And the total combined budgets of all states and localities in the United States now is somewhere in the vicinity of maybe $6 trillion or less.
Oh my gosh. So you're right. We can't get it. And I just wanted to make sure, Doc, whoever haven't seen you before, they understand why, you're like, no, we need to get it from the federal government, not state government.
Let me be clear. Mm-hmm. I do believe there's some important things that can be done at the state or local level. And I think there are three things. One is what a commissioner of the Maryland State Lynching Commission described as a project of radical truth-telling. Mm-hmm. That is to say, setting the record straight about the atrocities that have occurred in all of these communities across the country. That's something that can be done at the state and local level. And in fact, even in the Tulsa context, where we probably have more data than in, say, the 99 other massacres that took place in the United States, where we have more data in Tulsa, we actually do not have complete data. And as I pointed out, there's no real accurate count of the total number of people who were actually killed during the course of the massacre. So that's the first thing that could be done, is we could begin to have an accurate record of all of these atrocities. And that's something that could be done effectively at the state and local level. The second thing is states and localities can set their own house in order. That is to say, I think in most locations across the country, there are still policies and practices that cripple the lives of Black folks. Mm-hmm. And so those policies and practices need to be discontinued. That is not the same thing as reparations, because stopping an atrocity is not the equivalent of compensating for the effects of the atrocity. And for
Exactly.
me, reparations is compensating for the effects of the atrocity, but I don't think states and localities have the capability to do that satisfactorily. But they can stop existing harms,
Mhm,
and they
mhm,
should do that.
mhm.
And then the third and final thing is they should make a commitment to promote a comprehensive reparations plan at the federal level. States and localities can commit some of their resources to uh, lobbying and petitioning Congress, putting pressure on Congress to finally do the right thing. Um, and also lobbying and petitioning in ways in which they change the folks who are actually elected to Congress, so that we'll get people there who would be supportive of a comprehensive reparations plan. So I definitely think states and localities can do something. They can do something very important, but I don't think that they can conduct an adequate reparations plan.
Okay, and Doc, so someone by the name of, and shout out to Happy Valley Farms. Happy Valley Farms said Tulsa City just released 45,000 files
Yes,
on
that's
made.
terrific.
Yeah,
We need the information there. That I was in Tulsa with Kirsten Mullen maybe about 3 weeks ago or so, and we heard the announcement that these files are going to be released, and we both said
wow.
this is excellent news.
Wow. And it said, yeah, on May the 29th, it said 1921 race massacre historical files for the public to see it.
Yeah,
And, I'm gonna get with my girl, Dr. Tareen Wright, to see if she want to dig into some of those files, because I'm sure it's a lot of information there that we don't know,
that's right.
and
Yeah.
it's a lot of information there to uncover. But speaking of states, I wanted to ask you about Wes Moore. So Governor Wes Moore, he's the governor of Maryland. He recently was in the news a few weeks back because he vetoed a bill to study the history of slavery in Maryland, of course, with the aim for reparations, but to study it first, right? To study what occurred in Maryland, and he vetoed it. And so, Dr. Darity, what are your thoughts about that? Do you
Well, I used the term optics a little bit earlier, and I think
Yes,
the optics of a black governor vetoing a study commission for reparations is definitely problematic. Uh,
absolutely.
I guess he's planning to run for some kind of higher office, maybe the presidency, and doesn't think he could do something more positive. Now, I also don't think that the piece of legislation that was put before him was adequate. And but he always had the opportunity of saying he was going to send the legislation back to the state legislature and ask them to revise it instead of vetoing it altogether. And there's some changes in that legislation that I think could readily have been made. It's a peculiar bill. I think it has 23 members on its commission, which is well, the old commission that was established by Congress to assess the harms and damages done to Japanese Americans during the course of World War II, the mass incarceration. That was a commission that had 9 members. I don't necessarily view 23 members as something that's manageable or will produce any kind of coherent result. The other thing is there's no specifics about what the quorum is. So do you have to have all 23 people present? If not, how many people have to be present on the commission for it to make decisions? There's no conditions about transparency. There's no indication that the commission must have public hearings, must act in such a way that the general public has full information about their proceedings. And then the last thing that I think is most important is I think that the formation of a commission of this type needs a charge that compels it to address the question of what its state or locality can do to support the federal reparations effort. And that should be built into the legislation. I think Governor Moore should have sent the bill back and said, here are some specific things I would like to see changed in the bill. rather than vetoing
Just
it.
veto it. Just veto
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I thank you. Thank you for explaining that. And so, Dr. Darity, um, what are you? What are your thoughts about folks saying that we have enough studies? You know, a lot of folks are saying, you know, every time you turn around, it's a study. Even in New York, I know that they mentioned a few months ago that they were going to study the history of slavery in New York. You know, of course, with the goal or end goal of discussing reparations or considering reparations for Black Americans that were in New York. And so, what are your thoughts of folks saying things like, we have a lot of studies, the studies are out there, the numbers are out there? And I could pull up the studies. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with them. You talk about them in your book. But Doc, what do we is that necessary? Like, that's the first step. Let me study it, examine it, and then, so could you explain that? Like, is it necessary? We know what the economic condition is of Black Americans and why. And so is the study, is that a necessary step?
I think at this point, given the amount of data and information that we have out there, it's probably not essential to have a study to justify a
Right.
reparations plan. The value of the studies, as I'm suggesting, is that they do provide us with an opportunity for telling the truth about the American historical record, and that's of use. But I don't think it necessarily has to be something that has to be done on a more extensive basis for us to proceed to the design and implementation of a comprehensive reparations plan at this stage.
At this stage.
I think we do have enough information about how best to do this without having to have another study. But I will say that in other instances in which reparations programs have been inaugurated across the globe, there usually has been some type of study report that was prepared in advance to lay the groundwork.
Okay. So you're saying it's not a necessary step. You're saying it would be, good to have for the sake of telling the truth, but it's really not necessary. But you have also witnessed in other countries and other places,
and in the United States. I
and
mean,
in the United
the
States, yeah.
Japanese American case, there was a commission that Congress established that made the case for reparative justice and also offered a proposal for how it could be done.
Okay. All right. Okay. And Dr. Darity, thank you for your response. So a lot of folks, because you mentioned this earlier, and you said people typically aren't bold enough to call the plan a reparations plan. And I've been listening to different conversations. I've been in conversations concerning reparations, and a lot of folks, the people that are pushing for reparations, you got some folks saying, well, let's not call it reparations because it goes against the law. They said that white folks can always fall back on, I think it's called race-based programs or race-specific programs, and that is a violation of one of the civil rights laws. So they're like, we don't want to call it reparations.
Well,
Because
I don't know if it's a violation of a law, but it is a violation of a particular interpretation of
a particular
the Constitution that has been used by the existing Supreme Court.
Yes.
Okay.
Could you talk about that and unpack that for me, Dr.
Well, there's a condition that people refer to as strict scrutiny. I'm sure you've heard that, and that any piece of legislation that targets a particular group has to survive strict scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
And it's my impression that one of the things that permits a piece of legislation to survive strict scrutiny is if the perpetrator, whether it's the United States Congress or some other level of government, says at the outset that they bear responsibility for the atrocities that have taken place. And if they do that, and they're specific about whom was subjected to the atrocities, I think that survives strict scrutiny, unless, of course, the courts change their rules again. But under existing rules, if the perpetrating entity says, we did this, we are responsible for it, and we are now going to undertake an act of redress, then I think that's sufficient.
Okay.
It's crucial that the perpetrators say who they have harmed.
Mhm.
And they can say who they have harmed based on any criteria or standard that's available. I've tended to argue, as has obviously as has Kirsten Mullen over the years, that we actually need two types of standards,
Mhm.
and we need to use both of them for determining who's eligible for Black reparations. The first is a lineage standard, which identifies individuals who have at least one ancestor who was enslaved in the United States. And that is not a race-based standard. That
Yeah,
is a
that's true.
standard that's connected to a particular kind of harm that that an individual's ancestor was subjected to. Okay. But if you only use the lineage standard, you open the door for individuals who are living as white, who also have ancestors who were enslaved in the United States, to be
Mm.
eligible for reparations. So that's why I
Mm.
think you also need what we refer to as an identity standard, where we say an individual would have to demonstrate that for at least 12 years before the adoption of a reparations plan or the adoption of a study commission for reparations, an individual would have had to have self-identified as Black, Negro, African American, or Afro American on an official document.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And Doc, what about Black immigrants? Because you now have, and this is what I've been reading, and by Black immigrants, I'm referring to brothers and sisters, and from the Caribbean who have Caribbean origins,
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, from the continent who have voluntarily migrated to the United States. Some of them are saying, "Hey, look, we may not be able to trace our ancestry in the United States back to slavery." But when we came over here, we too have been victimized, right? We too are victims of some of these things that you all are talking about. It may not be slavery, but So, what are your thoughts about that? That you have some Black immigrants now, and they're in Dr. Darity. Some of them are sitting on reparations boards, right?
Absolutely.
In
Around the country.
California, yeah, around the country.
Yeah,
And
around the
these are
country.
these are
Yeah.
people who are.
Especially New York. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
New York. Yeah, they have a
Yeah.
Caribbean background,
Yeah.
or they're continental Africans, and they're like, look, we want a piece of the pie too, even though our ancestors weren't necessarily enslaved here. We want to be included in this reparations thing y'all have going on. What are your thoughts about that, Doctor?
So the U.S. project is not for all African people, not from my perspective.
Yeah, no, I'm listening.
And I definitely think that virtually anybody who is a descendant of somebody who was subjected to the transatlantic slave trade, they have a claim for reparations, but not
Absolutely.
specifically on the U.S. government.
Mhm.
So if an individual is, for example, from Haiti, then France is the object of a reparations claim, or the primary object of a reparations claim. And of course, in the Haitian case, you have this paradox that the French actually extracted reparations from the Haitians. Well, they need to pay that back, and they need to pay it back with interest.
Mm.
But if you're thinking about the English-speaking Caribbean, then the primary claim should be made on the United Kingdom. And in fact, I think an organization like CARICOM has begun that process.
They sure have.
Yeah.
They sure have.
And so, I think that there's virtually everyone has a claim, but it has to be directed at the appropriate perpetrator. And the perpetrator that's relevant to Black Americans whose ancestors were enslaved here is the United States government. And there's something particularly unique about the debt that is owed to that community that's attached to the fact that that's the community whose ancestors were promised 40-acre land grants by
Right.
the federal government in the aftermath of the Civil War. And it's a
Yes.
promise that has never been kept.
Never. Dr. Darity, should people with should people with a Caribbean background or continental African background Should they be on reparations? Should they be speaking for us? Like, should they be on these reparation boards speaking for us? What are your
Well,
thoughts about
I think the reparations boards ought to have some degree of representativeness of the entire population.
it? Mhm.
So maybe it's a question of how many folks from those communities are on these boards. I thought it was odd that the California reparations task force did not have any white participants whatsoever, since ultimately the proposal is something that would have to be passed by a state legislature that is a product of the votes of white Californians as well as Black Californians. So
Mm,
I think it's representativeness is the bigger issue for me, rather than Group A or Group B being excluded altogether.
right.
Now, we could have a situation where there's overrepresentation of some groups, and that creates a disproportionate voice for them. And that's something that ought to be addressed.
No, absolutely, Doc. I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And so I do hear some folks who are pessimistic, Dr. Darity. They're like, "You're not going to give reparations. You all,
Oh,
those white folks ain't going."
I can be pessimistic myself. Yeah.
They say they're not going to give it to you. They're not going to give it to you. And I remember reading and also hearing that at one point, uh, you had Malcolm X. He was going to go to the United Nations, and at one point,
And
uh,
Queen Mother Audley Moore did go to the United Nations. Make
oh
a
yeah,
claim. Yeah,
oh
yeah.
beautiful. And then you had Johnny Cochran. They said before he died, he was considering going at the United States for reparations for Black Americans, and so if we can't get it from if the state doesn't, if our state representatives don't push for to advocate for reparations or at a federal level, and the feds say we're not going to give it to you, is there anything else that we could do? Could we go to the UN? Is there anybody else we could go to say no, you all need to
So,
pay?
it's fine to go to the UN. The UN already has a working group on persons of African descent that has endorsed reparations from the United States government to Black Americans. But the UN does not have the capacity to compel any government anywhere to do anything. It can recommend that they
Right,
do it, but
but can't make you
it can't make them do it. And so the real question is whether or not we can build the social movement in the United States
to make it
that
happen.
will eventually result in this. And I say I'm pessimistic in the sense that I don't anticipate anything like this actually happening in my lifetime. But on the other hand, the world sometimes twists in odd and unexpected ways. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you tell somebody in 1850 in the United States that slavery would be over by 1865, I'm not sure they'd believe you.
Right.
But that is ultimately what happened. Or if you told somebody in 1890 that women would have the vote by 1920 or so, I don't know if they'd believe you.
You. No,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, no,
So
absolutely.
we don't know how things will unfold. The only question is whether or not we'll put the effort into trying to make it happen.
No, absolutely. And look, one of my brothers, Joel Armstrong, he said, Dr. My question for Dr. Darity. What was Obama? What I guess he wanted to say what Obama gave Native Americans race base, or was what Obama gave Native Americans race base. So when Obama cut the check for Native Americans, he's saying, was it race based, Dr. Darity?
Yeah, I mean the trick here is that I think Obama could have made the claim that the justification for any type of compensatory action towards Native Americans was due to what happened to them, not due to their racial identity.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they can make the claim about us, Doc. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. That's what people mean by lineage-based reparations. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I said that there's a hole there, or an opening that I'm not inclined to leave open.
Right.
Which
And that's
is
white folks.
the white folks who, whose ancestors might have passed into whiteness, or white folks whose families have always lived as white, but they happen to have Black ancestors. Yeah.
But there was a loophole when Obama gave the Native Americans reparations, right? Because they said there were white folks who were claiming that they were Native
Exactly.
Americans as well. So
Exactly. And
will
in
we be
fact,
able to
at
avoid
an
that
earlier
loophole?
point in time,
Yeah.
what was it? What was the expression? $5 Indian or something like that?
$5. Yeah, $5
Where
Indian.
people actually purchased Native American status for the purposes of getting access to land.
So Doc, will we be able to avoid that? You see, the Native Americans didn't avoid it, with Obama. Will we be able
we
to
have to make sure that there's no possibility of people purchasing black status, but also that's the reason for the second standard that wanted to make sure when we put the 12-year condition in, we wanted to make sure that it was long enough before the prospect of reparations became something that appeared to be a reality, that when people were self-identifying their race, they weren't doing it because they thought they could get reparations.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely, Dr. Darity. So, Dr. Darity, I want to close by talking about your book, From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st. Where's my book at? My book is behind me. I got a whole bunch of stacks of books there. But I know your book. Oh, I'm looking at it right now. Hold on. Let me mute my camera. Stop my camera. I have your book right here. Even though I have a bunch of books downstairs and books. I love to read. Hold on. Let me restart this camera. Your book right here.
Oh, you got the first edition, the old one.
Yeah, I think this is the one you signed. I think
you
signed this one for me. Hold on, let me look. Did you sign this one for me? Oh no, I gotta come get my signature. You didn't sign this one.
All right, definitely.
But this is From Here to Equality: Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century. You said this is the first edition.
That's the first edition. There's a second edition that came out in 2022. I gotta get
the second.
It's a paperback edition, and the only thing that's really different about it from the first edition.
I was just going to ask. I was getting ready to ask you what is different.
There's a new preface that Kirsten and I wrote that is about sort of bringing the story more up to date from the point at which we wrote the material for the first book, which is published in 2020.
Okay, so I got to get that one. Doc, talk to us about the book. Where can we get it? What can readers expect to gain from it? Let's talk about that, Doc, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, I think there are two things in the book that I think are helpful to folks as, in a sense, ammunition around the reparations case. One is we invest a significant amount of time in addressing the standard kinds of arguments that people make against Black reparations. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the final chapter is the place where we try to begin to sketch a full-scale reparations plan. And there's a lot more in the book, but I think those two things are things that people frequently have said they find very useful. The second edition is available from the publisher, the University of North Carolina Press. You can communicate them with directly for access, or from the major online booksellers.
Dr. Darity, do you offer any seminars or workshops where you really dig into it? I know you do teach, but do you all have like workshops or seminars where you just unpack this material?
We haven't done that. We've done a significant number of podcasts.
Okay.
But we haven't set up a seminar series of our own around the book. We understand that there are folks who have set up, have selected the book for their book groups and have talked about it. And on occasion, they invite us to come to their book group. And we've done that. But, until I retire, which may happen fairly soon, we don't have the time to actually set up our own seminar series.
Got you. Understood. Doc, I got to drop a bomb for you. Fire!
I love that.
Dr. Darity came over here and all he did was spit fire. Dr. Darity. And it's, look, Danielle said, I have the book. She said it's excellent information. Family,
Thank you,
make sure
Danielle.
that you grab this book ASAP. From Here to Equality, Reparations for Black Americans in the 21st Century. Get the second edition. I need, Dr. Maya has to upgrade. Okay, I have to get the second edition. All right. And so I have the first edition here. I'm going to make sure that I order the second edition, but I want to get your signature on that one, Dr. Darity.
Yeah,
When I order that one, I have to get your signature. You and Christian, Dr. Christian Muller, got to get your signatures on that one. But Dr. Darity, do you have any closing words for the listening audience?
Well, I mean, we never have had significant federal support for reparations, not since the Reconstruction era, when the radical Republicans almost managed to make it happen. But we have not, whether it's been a Democratic Party in power or it's been a Republican Party in power. So the question is, will we be able to mobilize the American population, at least the proportion of the American population that's open-minded on this issue, to actually support a reparations plan? And I will say, there is a positive note here. In the year 2000, the beginning of the new millennium, only 4% of white Americans endorsed monetary payments as reparations for Black Americans. And by the start of 2024, that figure had risen to 28%.
Wow.
Still not a majority, but a significant increase. I think there's been a drop off, of course, in the midst of the Trump ascension, or
absolutely.
Trump reascension. But I think that the figure is still in the vicinity of about 24% of white Americans saying that reparations as monetary payments to Black Americans is something that should happen. And we need to build on that.
I think so too. But I do think that, like you said, the roadblock is with this Trump administration right now, and them trying to erase the history. I heard about what they're doing with the Smithsonian Museum of African American History and Culture. They're removing civil rights exhibits, slavery exhibits. They're, so I'm hoping that doesn't.
They're trying to restore the historical record that supports the case for the Confederacy.
Yeah, no, I mean, that sums it up. That absolutely sums it up. And I'm just hoping that doesn't, have a huge impact on the national consciousness, Dr. Darity. That's what I'm thinking about.
Well, it depends on how far they can go with it.
Right, exactly. Exactly. So again, Dr. Darity, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be with us tonight. I'm going to be in touch with you to get my book and to get your autograph on my book, so that the next reparations rally, I'll be holding my book up with a signature. All right, Doc?
All right.
All right, you take it easy, Doc. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Right. Take care. Take care, Doc. Man, family, you heard from Dr. Darity. Your girl was able to hit him up, text him, call him. Doc, you coming on the show? Yeah, I'll be there. All right, Doc. So, man, I really value access to people like that. He's a wealth of knowledge, of information. And I value people like that. Shout out to Dr. Asar, who was in the building earlier. I value having access to him, and I value having access to you all, right? Because you could have been anywhere today, but you were right here with Dr. Ma'at, right? You could have been on anybody else's YouTube channel or social media page, but you was right here rocking with me for the past 53 minutes. And so I value you, and I value all of your support. I know a lot of times I show you all these programs, right? I'm going right here. I'm going to show it to you really, really quickly. But I know a lot of times I show you these programs and I say these are solutions for our community. But let me keep it in Baltimore. We say keep it a buck. Let me keep it a buck with you. I would not have these programs if you all didn't support them, and when I mean say you all, I'm talking about if you all did not entrust us, and by us, I'm talking about the Uhuru Academy. I'm talking about Conscious Ingenuity. I'm talking about PLM. If you didn't entrust us with your children, we wouldn't have these programs. And so I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for entrusting your children with us. And so, family, make sure that you head on over to consciousingenuity.org. All of these programs are free. All of these programs are free, family. All right. And I have the link I have the HTTP or the website or the URL on the screen. Make sure that you hit on over to consciousingenuity.org. These programs are free for Black children specifically. These are programs that are free. Youth empowerment programs, conscious ingenuity, where we utilize science, technology, engineering, art, agriculture, and mathematics to build character, confidence, and capabilities. All right, free program for Black children, year-round program. The virtual UACI STEM camp, I offer that in partnership with the Uhuru Academy. This is a free virtual STEM program where your children learn cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, African STEM history, and more. Okay, this program is full. 50 kids. They've already signed up. We're rocking and rolling starting June the 30th. If your child isn't a part of this cohort, make sure that your child is in the winter cohort, okay, when we announce it. Then we have the Asafo training camp and the Goji training camp. Free in-person camps for children. And this is not just for children in Baltimore, or boys and girls in Baltimore. This is for children. I don't care where you are. You can say, I'm in Africa, I'm gonna fly over there, Doc, and kick it with you in Baltimore for a week so my child could come through the camp and your child is welcome. All right. I know that you probably is over exaggerating. You know, I ain't coming from Ghana, Doc. I ain't coming from Brazil to come kick it with you. You know, I just watch your channel. But anyway, family, and I'm just joking, but make sure that you get your children involved in these camps. Okay. This is the top Asafo training camp, which is the one you see at the top. This is an all boys camp for boys between 12 and 14. We're at half capacity, okay? And so make sure if you're interested, you get your son enrolled in this camp ASAP. The one at the bottom is all girls camp, the Goji camp. And this is for young girls between the ages of 12 and 14. Both of these camps are in-person camps held in Baltimore. It runs July the 27th through August the 2nd. Let me look at my calendar. Yep, through August the 2nd. Okay, the 27th of July through August the 2nd. All right, so this is free. Make sure that you head on over to consciousingenuity.org to get your children or your child enrolled in one of these camps. All right, family, get them enrolled. All right, family. So look, I'm up out of here. I see you, Dr. Asar. He said, blessings, great talk. I see you. What's that? Darnett Mitchell, peace and love to you. I say peace and love to you. I see AM. I see you. Peace and love to you. Say have a productive upcoming Juneteenth next week. Ashe. Peace and love to you. And family, don't forget to make sure that you join me back here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Before you get out of here, family, thumb up the video, thumb it up, thumb it up, thumb it up. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell so that whenever I go live, you will be notified. And if you missed anything that was uttered today, make sure that you go back in and, you know, you're watching the archives. And lastly, family, share this discussion. All right, share this discussion. We share a lot of bull crap sometimes, man. Share this discussion on your social media pages, okay? And copy the link, throw it in your group chats. All right. Peace, love, and Black excellence.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classics. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maya.